This video is brought to you by patreon.com/worsttake. Get access to exclusive live streams and Discord servers, on-screen shoutouts, and early access to some videos when you join now. Help make sure that we can continue to make content like this by supporting the Patreon. Links are in the description down below. What's up? This is Quincy, and this is me reacting to everybody's hot takes. This is the video where I go through your hot takes, react to them, see if the comment section is tripping or not. So let's see. Sorry if I caught y'all off guard. My back hurt, man. JOK is one of the best linebackers in football, is the first video we'll be taking the comments from. Michael Sirky says JOK is the only player that the Browns drafted that was the guy I wanted in the draft. Outstanding player in both the run and pass. He's so instinctive, quick, playmaker. Yep. I was really big on JOK when the Browns, during that year he came out, and I really pushed for the Browns to get JOK that year. Luckily, he slid to the second round, and Browns were able to get him. I thought the tape was exceptional on him. Quick player, strong player, super fast. I mean, like, you just see that burst on game day. It's unlike anything else in the NFL, and he's in the spot to get the most out of him. So Browns got real fortunate there that a lot of teams talked themselves out of what was a clearly good player in that draft class. Trent says, I tell you what, man, I think this is the best case scenario for a lot of reasons. But one of the biggest reasons being that we needed people who were saying that Joe Flacco could start over Watson to shut up. Joe Flacco essentially gave up a net nothing this game, and this is exactly what they needed to win. The defense is elite. Go Browns. Here's the thing, man. I think people are just too caught up in this whole, in what I like to call quarterback identity politics. Like, it feels like identity politics, but instead of political parties, it's quarterbacks. Like, if you look at it through that lens, a lot of this discourse and the arguments start to make sense in a way that kind of repulses you, given that most people don't love talking about politics. So I call it quarterback identity politics, right? You got the Joe Flacco people, you got the Never Watson people, you got the Watson people, you got the Baker truthers, and whatever. Like, we got all these crazy political camps out here for these quarterbacks, and I just want to stress how little of this actually matters, right? If you are a forever Flacco guy, Flacco ain't starting next year, man. Like, Deshaun gonna come back, he gonna start. If you are a Watson guy, you mad that people are going crazy goo goo gaga over Joe Flacco. Okay, well, Watson ain't playing right now, so his time ain't now. Like, if he was here, he would be putting up numbers. We would be all happy about Watson, but guess what? Dude got hurt. So we talking about the dude that's playing right now. Like, it's just how it goes, right? If you are a Never Watson, like, people are gonna always rock and go for whatever quarterback they want to, because this is not about football. When people are yelling about when people were yelling about Josh Dobbs, it wasn't about football. When people were telling me that Andrew Berry should get fired because he didn't get Josh Dobbs, you just told me it wasn't about football because nobody was actually watching Josh Dobbs. Because if you watch Josh Dobbs, you saw the dude fumble the ball like 3 times a game. None of this stuff about the quarterback position, or at least like 90% of the dialogue that people have over the quarterback position, it has nothing to do with football or how the quarterback they're talking about actually plays football. It's about the identity politics of the quarterback itself. And I don't mean that in any way other than this. People are using quarterbacks as political parties, it feels like. Like, that's what the conversation is, and that's how nonsensical it gets. So, no. The people who are saying that Joe Flacco could start over Watson, if Watson has a good practice in camp next year, they're not going to care. They're going to be back on the Watson train. And if Watson plays good next year, nobody's going to care. But if Watson does play bad, then you're going to get all the other camps coming out for blood, right? Like, it is what it is. It's the exact same thing we walked into last year. It's going to be the exact same thing next year. Watson can win the Super Bowl, and it's going to be the exact same thing. You know how I know this? Because I have friends who cover the Cincinnati Bengals, who cover the Baltimore Ravens. And guess what? They have more accomplished quarterbacks than we can dream of Deshaun Watson becoming at this point, right? Joe Burrow and Lamar Jackson. And even those guys, every time Lamar Jackson has a bad game, have people in their comment sections talking about Joe Flacco, talking about Andy Dalton, because the way that a lot of people online ride for these quarterbacks has nothing to do with the football itself. It's because they wrapped up their identity in being a fan of this specific quarterback, and they will rock for that quarterback or that quarterback agenda no matter what. So people worried about this. Oh, is this going to make Watson's life more difficult? Is this going to make Flacco's life? If this going to be it does not matter. The normal fan will see Watson throw a couple good passes in practice and be like, yeah, we back. They don't care. No, we only care if the man comes out, throws 4 interceptions in week 1. Like, if he plays well, this is a nothing burger. They're probably not bringing Joe Flacco back next year. That's probably the right move. They're going to commit to Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson's going to get scrutinized for that. There are going to be people on radio all summer talking about how people should be fired because they didn't keep Joe Flacco, same way they did all this year. And then the season's going to start. The season's going to end. We're going to probably win 12 games, and nobody's going to care about all these stupid ass arguments that we had in the summertime. So that's sorry that I spent the whole video on that one comment, but that's what it is, man. I think we just need to stop being so worried about the micro elements of this whole Joe Flacco, Deshaun Watson conversation, or how the fans are going to take it. We know people are going to be ridiculous. We know people are going to say some goofy stuff. We're going to get a couple tweets that get quote tweeted to death because it's a really dumb take. But at the end of the day, when Deshaun's healthy, he's back. He's going to play. He's going to be back in the building in a week, and then he's going to be on the sideline helping out. Guys, it's literally going to be, we did the same thing last year. We know what's about to happen, right? If he plays well, nobody's going to care. We're going to get all excited again and start talking about 2020. I just don't know how much more milk there is to be squeezed out of this whole thing. With the worrying about if this is going to be a controversy for one player or the other. Look for Flacco. Jeff Free says, look for Flacco. Flacco is who he is. Look at his numbers in recent years. You expect an equal amount of touchdowns to turnovers, interceptions, fumbles. That's still far better than we're getting from PJ and DTR. He'll win games when he's hot, lose games when he's cold. We saw both of those versions against the Bears. Good news is, hey, man, at this point, it doesn't even matter, PJ or DTR. He's playing for the rest of the year unless he gets injured. If he does get injured, I do still feel fine with DTR being able to win you a game or two. Yeah, you're in good hands. I said this weeks ago, quarterback's probably one of the last positions I'm worried about because I feel like you're fine there with Joe Flacco. And if Joe goes down, you can live with DTR. I worry about the mission criticals to me are Myles Garrett, David Njoku, Amari Cooper. One of the 3 corners, right? Well, 2 of the 3 corners. If you can keep 2 of them on the field, you're fine. Those are the mission critical items for me. Nicholas says you should have talked about the 2 plays of the game from Cam Mitchell, making that shoestring tackle on the field on 4th down and Alex Wright blowing up that play. Yeah, I think those are also big plays. I can't get everything on the post-game video, but yeah, those are absolutely big plays. And I talked about them in the defensive film breakdown. So make sure you guys check that out. Kevin Stefanski, Coach of the Year argument. My guy Chamrod says this. He says, only Browns coach to have multiple winning seasons since Marty. Not only should he be Coach of the Year, but Jimmy Indy should reward him with a new contract extension. What he's proven this year is that he can admit when change is needed. Retailoring the offense with 4 quarterbacks, he has empowered the defense by asking them how they feel and work, and what doesn't. This information then gets implemented as part of the total game plan, makes the defense really have a feeling of ownership. And I think people also underestimate how much the offensive side of the ball when it comes to coaching has an impact on the defenses. It's a collaboration at the end of the day. And that's one of the main points that I want to get through, is that it is a collaboration at the end of the day. Jim Schwartz is not working on the island, not talking to any of the coaches on the other side of the ball or any of the players on the other side of the ball. They're all working together. They're all collaborating. If Kevin's having success against certain concepts that Jim's running in practice, Kevin's going to ask Jim or tell Jim what's giving them that success, and Jim can make those adjustments. It's ultimately, at the end of the day, a collaboration between everybody. And this is why, like I pointed out in my one video earlier this week, why I hate when people try to make success a multiple choice question. Why was this successful? Success is collaboration. And collaboration is between a lot of different people in order to make that thing work. And you can't just point to one person and say, this is the person that made it work in a lot of cases. Great video cue from my guy WF. Great analogy comparing a football team to a workplace. I run a decent sized gym in Cleveland area, and culture is absolutely the most important piece to making a place/team successful. Running a sports team is the same. The best fit doesn't always mean the right fit. I could hire the most knowledgeable trainer on the planet, but if they are difficult to work with and don't provide some form of positive influence on the culture, then they cause problems more often than not. Yeah, and then even for that trainer, right? If you're a really dope trainer and you know a lot, you got to go to a place that, funnels you the clientele and the lifestyle that you want to do, right? Like, it's all about making sure stuff matches in order to get the most out of people. You can't force yourself to be in a miserable situation and expect yourself to get the best out of it. That's very rare in life. You got to put yourself in positive spots in order to be successful. And, making sure you like coming to work, that's one of those ways. My guy Michael Sirkey says you have to wonder what he would do with consistency at quarterback. In the end, coaching in the NFL is complex. Play calling is a minor part. Schemes and game plan are important, but it's also about being a head guy and knowing how to manage the team and culture. Yeah, this has been a great year of just managing that, the team, the culture, and the locker room and everything else. What could he have done with consistency at quarterback? I don't know. I always the longer I do this, the more I hesitate to just run with insanely improved. Like, how do I put this? The more I do this, the more hesitant I am to say, oh, if this had happened, we would have won 5 more games, because it just never ends up like that, But I think, if Kev had what he wanted at quarterback, I think things work out as well. Like, if instead of, let's say Jacoby Brissett didn't play so well last year that he priced himself out of the Browns and he was able to be brought back. Like, if you could have had Jacoby Brissett here the whole time, I think that would have been very interesting, because what you're getting out of Joe Flacco is essentially what you got out of Jacoby Brissett last year, right? Like, it's a very similar. Like, Joe Flacco's making more high level throws, but Jacoby turned the ball over far less. So you get that trade off. And, I wonder where this team is, what their record is, if they had something as steady as like Jacoby Brissett behind them. But given that he priced himself out, he was like a $9 million, like when you're already paying 40 something for the quarterback. Hey man, it stinks, but I wonder what it could have been. It's not crazy. The Browns can still win the division. My guy Kenneth says, I'd love to win the AFC North and be a 1, 2, or 3 seed, but I think it's more likely the scenario as follows, which in my opinion would not be too bad. If we do not win the AFC North, but get the 5 seed, and say the Bengals and Bills get the 6 and 7, and all 3 wild card teams win on the road. So the Bills beat the Dolphins, which is possible. The Bengals beat the Chiefs. The Browns beat the Jaguars. We could still get a home playoff game in the second round where the Ravens would host the Bills and the Browns would play the Bengals. If that happens, I would be pretty confident in winning that game and making the AFC Championship. And if the Bills would beat the Ravens and would host the AFC Championship game, we would host the AFC Championship game. At that point, the sky's the limit. Hey, my guy Kenneth, my guy Keith is playing 4D chess. I appreciate you, Keith. You done thought this all out, man. Shout out to you, man. Browns defense elite defense is just as good as an elite quarterback. It's a video I had earlier this week. George says an elite defense is as good as an elite quarterback. However, it's a lot harder to maintain an elite defense than it is to maintain an elite quarterback. I think that's very true. We lose a few pieces in the offseason. Players start regressing and suddenly. Yes, I agree with this point, Jordan. That's why I don't think a lot of teams built around it. Even though you have to ask yourself a question, is an elite defense as hard to maintain as it is hard to find an elite quarterback, right? Because when you have an elite quarterback, it is low maintenance. You can have that thing, kick it out for like 8 years, you're fine. But if you don't have an elite quarterback, is building an elite defense that can carry an average quarterback just as difficult as building or finding, not building, this isn't a video game, than finding an elite quarterback? I want to know your questions down in the I want to know your answers, my bad, down in the comment section down below. The Browns game plan versus the Texans. My guy Kelly Bell says, I don't believe I heard you say they can actually clinch a spot. All the stars aligned this weekend, but I can't explain exactly how. Yeah, it's like a big clinching scenario. Basically, though, all you need to know, if the Browns get 10 wins, dog, they're probably in. Don Badger says Browns have turned the ball over all season and still won games. Normally, the turnover battle determines wins and losses. They are either near the bottom in that category, but still find ways to win. Logically, it doesn't make sense, but it still hasn't stopped them. Yeah, I just would not want to fall into the habit of relying on that if I'm the Browns. But that's it for the hot takes video. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Y'all have a great day. Have an even better night. Peace.